Oh my freaking God!
Yeah!
It's time! Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm Jarid.
I'm Becca.
And this is Stop Lying to Yourself. Woo! Wow. I think we finally got it for the first time now in 6 episodes.
Literally.
Things have finally gone like somewhat smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're getting the hang of it. Maybe by episode 10 we'll feel like masters.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Once we finish the first season, have a little break, then we enter into season 2.
Which, how long do seasons go? Like 25 episodes? Is that long?
I think so, but honestly, I think shows only have like 8 episodes nowadays.
Yeah. We could do a new season after 10 episodes.
We could.
We'll do whatever the fuck we want.
Exactly. Because
Slay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, what's that? There's this one show on YouTube called with Trixie and Katya, and they're like, this is our show and not yours. They do the same thing. Yeah, I love it.
This is our show, not yours.
Not yours. Okay, so you said you wanted to start off with a 2023 recap since we're at the end of the year.
Yes.
So do you want to start?
I always start, so I wanted to start with you, Mr. On...
Stop lying to yourself.
How like looking at your year, the last 11 months, how have you evolved? What are some challenges that you've had?
I would say that this year was probably the roughest year, but probably the most necessary year that I've gone through in a really long time. I went through a lot of self-growth, a lot of learning how to be alone, a lot of learning how to like myself again, which is really good. I would say that at the beginning of the year, I started off really rough, was having a terrible time mentally. Yeah. But when I started to discover more hobbies of mine and like what works for me on a personal level, things got a lot better. I got like more serious with figure skating around April. That became like a huge hobby of mine. And then I decided to make a school switch around the summer, like July. And then I moved here to Houston and I met some new friends, a new place, a new change of pace, like all that stuff. It was just felt so stagnant where I was before.
Yeah. And
it's been nice to kind of uproot myself and put myself in a new spot and kind of start a new chapter of my life, which has been kind of beautiful, painful, but beautiful.
So the new environment, you think, helped and stuff?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. And then you can make like, I don't know, sometimes the new environment really helps and then you feel like you can like change your mindset. I don't think it's always true, but I think there are times where like just getting out of the environment will kind of change your mindset as well.
Right. And there have been times where I have wondered like, did I just run away from my problems? But then I think it was what was necessary in order for me to kind of get closure on those problems and start anew.
Sometimes you gotta go, and that's okay.
Yeah,
you just go.
Sometimes you do. I don't feel like I left my problems back in California. I feel like I closed those up as quick as I needed to, came here, started fresh, and it just felt like a new slate.
End of a chapter.
Yeah,
beginning of a new one.
Yeah. How would you describe your past 11 months?
I feel like we are on like the same wavelength when it comes to like our growth and stuff, which is why we also get along really well. Is like I feel like we're in the same stage in our life, I guess. Yeah, like a lot of like challenging myself to like do things differently, to think about things differently, to try out like, you know, when I wanted to say no, saying yes instead. When I thought I couldn't do it.
Fighting your fears.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Facing fears, fighting my fears, and letting go a lot. I've had, instead of like, kind of how you said, running away physically and also like mentally from problems, like I definitely am a runner. Like I would isolate a lot, and now I
also are quite literally a runner. She be running.
Yeah, literally a runner. Like I love running away from things. And now facing them, but not only facing them, but now it's not as painful as it used to be. Like I can like accept and love myself and like trust myself and know that I'm doing the best I can, and knowing that I'm that I'm just challenging myself, but I don't get upset as much at like what people say to me. Like I think I'm just growing in that way.
Right.
Like I'm not as hurt as I used to be, or it wouldn't like take over my life if someone says a snarky comment to me as much anymore.
It's almost like we both have gone through an arc, even though our lives are different. Like it's sorry, I feel like this is being weird. I feel like it's like going in and out.
Really?
Yeah. But I might just be crazy. Huh. I guess we'll see. As I was saying before I was so rudely interrupted by my microphone, it's almost like our lives are different, but our arcs have been similar in the sense where we have almost learned to be more dependent upon ourselves and trusting ourselves as opposed to being reliant on other people or other like outside forces to kind of dictate how we feel.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. It's like a great like personal self-growth journey that I think everyone goes through in their early 20s. It's just that we might be going through it for the first time, so it feels like whoa, you know what I mean? But yeah, I would say it was a painful, difficult, hard year, but I also know that it was vital for me to go through it. And I think that I would rather be this version of myself now than what I was a year ago.
I agree 100%.
Yeah.
It's about the hard truths.
Yeah. That actually transfers into our two topics for the day, because I was talking about like dependence on other people. So do you want to announce the two topics for today?
Our topics are friends and FOMO.
Friendships and FOMO, y'all.
I love this topic.
I love this topic. All right. So
I've had a good amount of friends.
Okay, since I started off the episode, I'm forcing you to start off this topic.
No, I feel like I've had a lot of friends. I've had a lot of, I've had friendships that were there for a season, there for a reason. And I've had...
This fly wants to be friends.
I know. Like, yeah, the fly wants to be a part of the podcast. He's living rent-free. So, the biggest thing that I've realized with friendships in my 20s, especially in the last few years, is you need to hold your friendships to a standard that you would a personal relationship.
Right.
So I used to see friendships as like you can be friends with anyone, and I used to be very fluid and very like go with the flow, and I hung out with all different types of people who I disagreed with in many ways, like, you know, morally, like disagreed with them politically, like, and then I started being like, I'm feeling like, you know, I would go home and be like, why do I feel like this wasn't very fulfilling when I would hang out with them? Like, I want friendships that I go home and I feel like warm and cuddly.
Right, like it was just a positive addition to your day as opposed to something that like drained you.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like kind of similar to, now we got two flies trying to join. They said, oh, they're going for the light source. Yeah. I feel like similar to you in a sense. I've spent my whole life moving around a ton, so I've never had like a set group of friends. So I've kind of, and I'm a very adaptable person, so I kind of can talk with anybody. Mm-hmm. But I kind of started going through that too when I was like, you know, had a bunch of different friends. I would hang out with certain friends, and I'd realize that I left, even though the actual hangout was like really fun, I would leave and I'd get into my car, and then I would feel kind of like, that didn't really add anything. It actually took more energy for me to adapt around who they are, as opposed to just being able to be me as a friend in that hangout, in that situation. But yeah, moral of the story, I realized that I would leave hangouts not feeling completely fulfilled, and I would almost feel like I wasn't really being myself or like able to get a word, and I was more so just like an ear to listen to somebody else's problems and hear them vent. Oh my gosh. So, yeah,
being
I feel
the
like
therapist of the group. I understand that for sure.
And then it's also weird on the flip side, becoming the friend who, like, when you are the listening friend, the one who just kind of listens and helps people with their issues, it's interesting meeting a friend who is that for you, because then you're like,
oh, it's odd.
It's weird because it's like, oh, well, my problems don't matter. You know, it's like it's about you. Let's talk about you. And then when the cards are flipped on you and they're like, no, it is important. You're like, wait, do I have no respect for myself?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you have to give yourself as much respect with your own issues and with your own personal experiences as you give to other people.
Yeah, it can be very difficult to be like vulnerable in expressing your feelings and emotions with people, even with people that you're close with. It might, if it's something you're not used to doing, it's very weird.
Yeah.
And I kind of tell myself, like, prepare yourself mentally for being vulnerable, for being open, and don't expect that the person's response is going to be like exactly the way you want it, or like, you know, their response may be taking in the information that you're giving them, and that doesn't mean that that's how you should feel about it yourself.
I was really trying to understand that, but I might have to have you repeat that for me.
So you're going to listen back and understand. I already know.
And that's what's so crazy. I was having my own thoughts about like what I was like,
no.
how's this, what am I going to say in this episode? And then I realized I needed to tune into what you were saying.
No, that's okay.
So yes, repeat it for me. I apologize.
Like, my thoughts are like, when you decide you want to be open and vulnerable with somebody, and it's maybe someone that you haven't really been like that way around, you might have had like playful fun, like you can play games, you can go out, you can party together, but or whatever, and you can't really like fully connect with them, I guess, because I've had like friends like that. Well, when you decide, you know, I want to give this relationship a shot in the emotional side, and you have that conversation and you're like, oh, I'm going to be vulnerable and say I'm struggling right now or something like that.
Right.
You can't expect their response to be always like understanding and listening the way that you would want to, especially if they're not used to that. Like being understanding of how people are receiving the information you're giving them.
Oh, it's kind of like love languages. It's kind of like you can't expect people's love language. You can't expect to love with your love language and offer that to another person and expect it to feel the same.
Yeah.
Whereas like if my love language is physical touch and theirs is quality time, me giving them physical touch and physical affection is going to do it for them, as opposed to like giving them their love language, which is quality time. If you have to love each other how each person is most comfortable being loved.
Or maybe if you see the response and you know them, you would know this response is the way of them showing that they care, and it may not be exactly the same way that I do.
Right.
That's been a huge thing that I've learned.
And do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, or do you think it's just a matter of understanding that?
I think it depends on the situation, but I think in a scenario where you're being vulnerable and open, I think it's one of those things where in a way, you have to understand that they may be taking in the information you're giving them and like trying to process that, because we may be telling someone something and they're like, in their head, they're going, oh, like, I don't know what to say to them. Like, ooh, I'm depressed too. Or, ooh, like, I don't know how to respond. And on the outside, it's looking like they don't care. Mm-hmm. When really it's just
on
like
inside,
very overwhelming for them.
It's kind of triggering them a little bit.
Yeah. And even if not triggering, they don't know how to deal with it. Like,
right.
A lot of people don't know how to deal with like intense emotions, and we take it as they don't care about us.
Right.
Or they're not trying, or like I said, like they don't care.
So that's when I say like that's why I was asking like if it's maybe all about interpretation, because if you come to understand how like your friend's brain works, and you understand how they show you how they're being supportive, then you can start to appreciate that support, even though it's not what you're expecting initially. But it's knowing that someone is listening and someone does care enough to try and support you in the way that they know how to.
That is the way they show support. 100%.
Exactly. And so then that becomes fulfilling, even though. So I guess that even like the love language argument I was making, it kind of depends on that too. It's like if you can come to understand what that other person's intentions are, then maybe you can come to appreciate that. Yeah.
That doesn't mean you shouldn't adapt. Like you're
right. I think it's. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I believe that my friendship should be adaptable in that, you know, over time, or if I tell you, hey, like, I know you're trying to support me, like, I saw that you were really trying to, But I just, for me, it would be really helpful if, like, you know, you gave a few head nods or you gave me it's okay to ask for what you need.
It's a give and take. Like relationships and friendships are all a two-way. It's a two-way street. It takes two to tango.
Yeah.
So it's like, so if I think when it becomes one-sided is when one person is putting in the effort to understand the other person, but it's not being reciprocated.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice answer to the question that I
Yeah.
asked. Yeah, that we were just talking about, because I was like, wait, hold on. Yeah. But
It can be confusing because we don't have, like, the conversation in front of us. If we had two people talking, then you'd be like, okay, I get it. But in my head, I have a vision of, like, two people talking and discussing how they're feeling.
right.
But I think, like, it's okay for people to hold, like, the feelings that you have and be feeling it with you. And, like, yes, at the end of the day, we want people to put their feelings aside to be able to understand us, but that's not always realistic. If
Right.
that makes sense.
And sometimes people, like your friends or your loved one or your significant other, they don't always have to give something back. Sometimes what you really need is somebody to just listen to you and like hear you figure it out yourself. I was going to kind of transfer into something and talk about, like, I feel like when you become less dependent on other people for like validation, like whether that be like in the form of support, I feel like it's a lot easier to accept the positive aspects of your life as opposed to
Yes.
focusing on the negative. If you become dependent on someone to positively prop you up, I feel like it becomes a lot easier when that prop isn't there to focus on everything negative. But when you really start to be okay with and just being like peacefully content with having your own everyday schedule and being your own person, then advice from other people doesn't seem so scary.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to adapt because you're in a happier place. You're in like a more positive mindset to accept that new information.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And one that I think is very difficult for people to get to. Takes a lot of self-work to get there.
It really does. It's so hard. I know so many people, and what's difficult is that we're all human, so there's been moments in our lives where we've been incredibly dependent upon someone or something.
Yeah.
So in my life, I've been incredibly dependent on a person in the past, and then when that person was gone, it's kind of like, oh well, now that the person's gone, like, how do I support myself? What do I do? You know, so it's like I let myself plummet, and then it was kind of like, okay, well, we're at rock bottom, so we got to start taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
That means getting up and showering more than every 2 days. That means making our bed. That means cleaning our room every once in a while and buying a fucking candle so it doesn't smell like BO and nasty shit. You know what I mean? So it's like when you rely on other people to prop you up and support you, you kind of like lose the ability to kind of dictate what you do with your life and how you take care of yourself. So
yeah, and social media does not portray that individualistic, like, even though we do live in an individualistic society, at the same time, I notice, like, things on TikTok, Instagram, it just shows, like, people making these burr baskets and like, buying all this expensive stuff for their significant other and like, making things look so perfect.
right,
And it's like,
setting unrealistic
and they don't
standards.
show like the hoarding room where they pushed all the trash into that
Yeah.
room, like
Yeah.
kicked all the trash under the door to film
Right.
for. I mean, you could look around us; it looks real nice, and then there's flies around and all our shit's right there.
You said there's 2 lamps without the covers
Yeah.
on. There's like a chair pushed in the corner.
Yeah,
But I think that like you bringing up like social media and stuff. I feel like this was a topic that like I said I wanted to talk about beforehand, kind of transitioning into, but like on social media, I feel like the self-help content that we see a lot of the times, I feel like is oftentimes like very misleading and very biased.
yeah,
I feel like there's not like a nice balance on how to actually maintain self-growth. I feel like I was wanting to talk about like on TikTok, on YouTube, like I feel like if you self-growth to an extreme extent turns into like hyper individualism. Do you know what hyper individualism is?
No, I only heard about it when you said it today.
Basically, like, I was watching this video essay. I'll link it down below. But it was basically talking about how we live in an era now where people are so hyper individualistic and people are like they respect themselves so much, and like it's all about self-growth to the point where they don't feel like they owe anybody anything. They feel like they don't need anybody in their life. So it's like cutting off negative influences just becomes cutting off anybody who inconveniences you.
Yeah.
Or gives you a different way to look at things. And I feel like in the video essay, she was talking about how us as human beings, we owe each other a base level of respect. And human beings flourish by being selfless. We don't flourish by being selfish, because then we become, I'm going to say it again, an echo chamber of our own opinions.
Echo chamber count.
Echo chamber. I know. I really need to start like a counter that goes like ding every time I say echo chamber. But it really does create like this stifled space where you only echo certain opinions of yourself, and you don't let enough in. So I feel like cutting off negative influences means cutting off people who are actually detrimental to your life, and not people who just kind of challenge the narrative of what life's supposed to be in your own head, because that's the point of that's also part of the human experience.
And
is
people will keep
challenging
people around
yourself.
who are a yes man. Like it's always like a lot of the times we will keep people around who are yes men and yes women, yes people, and
yes theys, yes thems,
yes theys and yes thems. And you know what? Like, yes. Yes.
Well, yes.
Keep some yes men around. Okay, like I keep wanting to say yes now. We want to have people around who support us, who want the best for us, who hype us up, but not to the point where now you are reinforcing this behavior, girl. Like you are telling me stuff, and it's like, maybe you should tell me to get out of bed and not be like, woohoo, take care of yourself. It's like, this is self-deprecating. Like,
but also some people, like some people keep around yes men, and those yes men are keeping you around as the same purpose. So you kind of become two yes men in the relationship, just kind of reinforcing certain behaviors.
It's a yes cycle.
It's a yes cycle.
No is not in the vocabulary.
Not at all. Not at all. But it becomes a cycle of reinforcing your bad behaviors, and in a sense you're both leaning on each other to justify not getting better. And I think that like having friends that do challenge you to basically say, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
I honestly, one of the best friendships I've had has been like looking in a mirror. You know, it's like there will be times where I'll be like, bitch, don't do that. And she's like, well, bitch, you did that yesterday. And I'm like, wow, so you're so correct. And so it becomes a moment of like, if you're both open to self-reflecting and challenging each other, then you can actually grow as people. And that's, I think, what builds amazing friendships, because you're not reliant on that person to always make you feel good, because you know they're going to challenge you when you need to be challenged.
Yeah. Like, know what your values are, I say. Like have an idea of what do you value in a friendship. Like, I value, and something that I was thinking about that I really value about our friendship is like the mutual respect. Like, I feel like you respect what I do, you respect who I am, you respect me as a being.
Right.
And honestly, you think that's just typical, but it can be very difficult to find people who you feel like they respect what you do, and you don't have to keep talking and talking and talking and explaining and begging them to see you for who you are.
I think the most conflict we've ever run into is the freaking white elephant thing, which is a joke anyway. So we did a white elephant at like a friend party, and there were these really cute t-shirts that were passed around, and I stole them first. So it comes around to Becca, and she's one of the last numbers, and she says, I'm sorry, this is somebody that I truly and deeply love, but I'm going to have to steal those shirts. And ever since then, we're done. The podcast is over. We can't be friends anymore. I'm fucking over it.
Oh, this is the last topic?
This is the last episode, yeah. I'm just like toughing through it because I can't stand
storms
you
up to
anymore.
the camera and like...
Get it? Even though we're the ones filming it, I'm like, get it! Stop filming!
Yeah, stop.
But no,
we have a whole film crew over here.
But I agree with you. I think, like, even though our friendship is relatively new, I think, honestly, like, starting something like this together, and you were even saying, like, we were so unprepared when we were trying to find matching pajamas for this episode for the podcast, but we ended up looking like the Grinch.
Tarjay was sold out because we're very last-minute girlies.
But you were saying, like, just kind of, like, making do with what we have. I think that, like, that spontaneity, like to just start a podcast and like what we're doing together, is really fun because in a sense, like that's something that only you and me have together is the podcast. And I think that's beautiful. It's like a nice builder of our friendship.
That is nice.
Yeah.
And I've never had that before. Like, I told him that. I was like, I'm not used to having, like, one-on-one friendships. They used to make me feel, like, anxious. And I challenged myself this year. I was like, you know, we've rescheduled, but we've still been pretty consistent. Like, even if we miss a week, the next week, well, it's because we want to do it. And we said that last week. It's like I'm only rescheduling because I have to, but I'll be like, oh, I wanted to do that, you know?
Right. And also, too, we're understanding of each other when we can't always follow through because we understand that we have our own separate lives. Like, I understand that, like, you have work and you have, like, certain, like, family arrangements or friend arrangements that you've made. And it's like, okay, well, like, and I had to, like, we couldn't do yesterday because I had to, I had one of my students that had to coach at 4. And so, and you're like, oh, no worries, we can do tomorrow. So it's one of those things of just like not taking everything so personal and understanding that like you said, that mutual respect between each other of knowing that I don't want to disrespect you and I don't think you want to disrespect me. So it's kind of like I can believe you when you tell me certain things.
That's the big thing. Like if your relationship is built on lies and built on being sneaky and not trusting.
And what you can receive just for yourself, for your own self-benefit.
I hate that. And it's like, it doesn't make you feel good either. And the people that I talk to, the people that I counsel that do that bully people, they're the ones hurting the most. Like, they know that they do it, and then they're mad because they feel like they can't change it. And they feel bad because they're like, oh, I was so shitty to people. I'm such a fuck up. I'm such a failure. It's like, no, you're not. Like, and I think being in counseling and all that has made me recognize, like, all different types of human beings and how to be present with all different types of humans.
Right.
And that's why I love this career. Love this career.
Like you were saying, I think it was last week, you were saying how, like, you, I clocked you. I said, you love the villain origin stories. And you're like, I do. Because it's all about understanding people who aren't like you. And I think that's so fascinating. I've always said that about, like, all of my friends growing up. I've never liked having friends that are, like, too similar to me because it's not that it's not a challenge, but it's like I've always loved learning about people who are different than me because it gives me a new perspective on how the world is. You know what I mean? If I surround myself, I don't want to stay in my
bubble. I actually get like tired of being in the same bubble.
If I surround myself with people who think just like me, it's kind of like, how much am I really growing and learning? You know, like.
But that's us. We've also put ourselves through the ringer by pushing ourselves, and sometimes even to the point where it's like, maybe sometimes, at least for me, like I will, you know, that's what I had to work on, was like taking care of myself, because for a while it was like you said, like doing everything for everyone else and also being so understanding, and it's like not having those boundaries and not using no as a full sentence.
And it gets
never have used no as a full sentence in my life.
And it gets to a point too where like that only starts changing when you have lost yourself at one point in your life. You kind of like look and realize, oh my God, like I'm a whole being underneath all of this, outside of what I can do for other people. Yeah. You know, I can give to other people, but I also need to give to myself. You can't give to other people unless you give to yourself first. Otherwise, if you can't give to yourself, most of your relationships that you have with any other person are going to be partially self-beneficial because you're getting something from them because you don't know how to self-provide yet.
People notice when you're confident. People notice when you've worked on yourself, and they will attract. The good people will attract to good people. Hurt people attract to hurt people. And that's just like, it's crazy how that usually works.
Now, you were talking about how you've never been like a one-on-one friendship person. It's funny because I've always been the opposite. It's been kind of new for me to have just like friends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because all my friendships I've always felt like had to be so concretely deep, and it's like they don't all have to be that way. You know, you don't have to seek such deep like rapport with someone, you know.
And it feels crazy how long it takes for us to truly recognize that, because I feel like my parents told me that as a kid. It's like,
my parents told me that too.
You don't have to be friends with Timmy, and I'm like, no, I need to be friends with Timmy.
I need to understand what makes him go.
And then you do, and you're like, ooh, I don't think I like Timmy very much. Or Timmy's not for me, Timmy's a good person, but not in my life. And it's so relieving to just have that.
So my question is, do you think that, because our next topic is FOMO, fear of missing out, do you think FOMO affects people who are more one-on-one friendship people, or people who move in a flock?
I think it affects people who want to be one-on-one people that are in a flock. Like, they want one-on-one time. It's almost
like you were saying last week, like, being lonely is better than being lonely in a relationship. Like, having FOMO while also being a member of the flock. But you know what? That makes sense, though, because if you run with the same crowd and if you like having many, many friends, if they're doing something without you, then it feels like you're missing out a lot.
Versus, that like, if you're someone who likes to be with the flock, then you'll just find another flock. Like, extroverted people like that will just, you're busy? Okay, I'll just hang out with other people because they have so many people to.
You're talking about somebody who wants one-on-one friendships, but hangs out with the flock. Yeah. You just said that, but it just registered to me now. Yeah. Gotcha. Because it's not giving you that. It's not giving you that fulfillment from a friendship that you are wanting.
Yeah, because I feel like if you're a one-on-one friend and you always get to see your one-on-one friend and that's satisfying to you, then you won't really be missing out unless your one-on-one friend is going and hanging out with other people.
Right. I will say, though, as somebody who has had, like, one-on-one friendships, I would say that, like, some things that I've questioned myself, I wouldn't say that I experience a ton of FOMO. I feel like I like, most of my life, and especially moving around a lot, I just have gotten used to being, like, an addition, if that makes sense. So if I am not an addition a certain weekend, I'm like, it's okay. I'm doing my own thing.
Obviously, it includes lifestyle as well. Like, it's not going to be every time. If you like one-on-one friendships, like, you always have FOMO. Like,
it's not black and white. It's not like if this then that. But it's just, we're discussing how, like, we're like I feel like
patterns.
Like our friendship styles are kind of different, and they're kind of like, it's like an X. We're at the crossroads right now. But I do feel like even if you do have one-on-one friendships, I've still experienced FOMO in the sense of, like, I don't go to clubs. I've never been to a club. I don't go out. I've never done the party scene that much. So all of my friendships have been, like, really chill one-on-one hangouts, or, like, even if it is a few friends, it's usually only like 3 or 4. So that fear of missing out is kind of like when you see people on Insta or TikTok and, like, they have this huge group of friends and they're, like, out partying every weekend. And they seem like they're having a great time. You think, I wonder if I'm, like, missing out on having, like, a full, complete amount of fun. Yeah. Because I'm just sitting around, like, just milling around with, like, the same few people. I feel like I'm not, like, going out and living the experience. But then at the same time, I've had one-on-one friendships with friends who do that, like, who have a huge flock of friends. Yeah. And they go out and party all the time, and they tell me, like, oh, you're not missing out on much. So I think a lot of it is, I think, like, it's good to experience both, just to see what you like. If you like traveling in the flock and that works for you, then do that most times. If you don't like to, then you don't have to do it all the time. It's just, I think it's a matter of, like, what your friendship style is and what you enjoy, and also not feeling like you need to be heavily reliant on your friends. Yeah. Friends are there for support when you direly need it, and you're there for when they direly need it too. And they're also just there for a fun time, but they can't be a codependent source for you. Yeah.
I'm what's the word? I'm adaptable. I like both. I like to have now I like more one-on-one, or I like smaller group kind of thing. Little game night things. Those are most fulfilling. I go home feeling the best. But I'm a once a monther. Like, once a month, let's try something new. Let's go, down to Galveston and do something. Or go to Austin or something.
I honestly love that about you. Like, I would say that, like, the whole, like, trivia night, game night things, like, I generally hadn't, like, done that with friends before, and I was like, this is so fun. Like, I love this.
Really?
It was like, it's like trying different things. I've never had friends who just go and do different things. Yeah. And, like, and I really love that. It's a new kind of friendship experience that I've gained from you.
You went to the bars with us?
I did.
He drove us. He DD'd.
I did. I was a designated driver. And I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was just because it was a new experience that I hadn't done before with friends. Yeah. And it was it was very nice.
It's fun, and also like people think that you have to go like bar, bus, another club, another club. It's like you don't have to
Bus,
do that.
plane, another club, no sleep.
Like, girl, yes, sleep. I'm a yes man you right now. But yeah, like, no, I'm someone who's like, my social battery will be up. Like, I have to mentally prepare. Like, this week was like very tough for me because when I know holidays are coming and I like have my routine kind of like changed, I get a little like anxious and I have a little bit of a depression. And then I'm like, okay, like use my coping skills and stuff. And then I say no, like throughout the week. If someone's like, let's hang out, I'm like, no. And then I have a set period of time off, like, which is good. Like most people do that. Huh?
To recharge.
Yeah. I have mentally prepare 2 days. And then I have like multiple days where I'm seeing people because it's holidays and like, everyone's in town. And then I take another like few days off to recharge. Some people can go. And they haven't stopped. Like, it's crazy. Like, my extroverted friends that I see, like I said, once a month, like old work friends and stuff that we go out or do whatever. I'm like, girl, like, they'll be out and then they'll still go to work all hungover. I'm like, I don't know. That
Could
might affect
never
my
be
mental
me.
state.
Yeah. I think, I think that, like, fear of missing out comes from, like, I had a point that kind of left me a little bit. But I think fear of missing out comes from ignoring what you personally need and comparing yourself to what everybody else needs. Yeah. And it's kind of like, if you are taking care of what you need to take care of to keep yourself mentally sound, then you're more able to not compare yourself to what other people are doing and just kind of join in whenever you're most comfortable to join in. And if you have good friends and if you have good friendships, you don't always have to be there. If your level of friendship goes down because of your lack of presence or your absence, then it's not a real friendship. It just goes to show that your other friends are trying to build this facade or rapport of having a great friendship group without considering what you actually need.
100%. I really think that, like, fear of missing out is usually, like, the typical people I've met, like, have had past trust issues. They're afraid not of missing out, but of maybe losing their friendships, or, like, if they don't go,
really
then...
good point.
Yeah, if they don't go, then, their level of friendship is going to be lowered. It's like, you're still on the same level, girl. Like, I love friends. We've talked about it. It's the best friends that you can see, and it's like, we don't have to talk about how we haven't seen each other.
Right.
We know we haven't seen each other. It's fine. Yeah. Let's move on and enjoy the moment. Enjoy what we can do right now to enjoy our time together.
Right.
Obviously, like, if you've had beef or something and, like, you're ignoring or ghosting people, that's different. Like, if there's, like, some beef behind it, but if it's, like, we've just genuinely been busy or things happen, like, let's just meet up and... I don't know. I let go very easily. I don't hold grudges, like, a lot.
Right.
So...
Because there's no point.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, it's so unserious. Like, there's a war in Palestine.
If you want to go, go. If you don't, then don't.
Yeah. Like, even, like, when I lost the first 6 minutes of the podcast last week, I literally, like, after I got done crying in a Panera Bread, I, like, literally had an out-of-body moment where I was like, Jared, this is so unserious. You're fine. It's okay. Like, life's going to go on tomorrow, Yeah. And I think it's like, if you treat your friendships like, not that you don't care, but treat your friendships like they're going to go on tomorrow. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
Then it's a lot, like we were saying, if you if you take the pressure off of things, it allows things to be so much more enjoyable.
So I have
you're not upholding, like, certain standards of what things need to be. You're just allowing them to be.
Yeah. So I have a twin sister, and so, like, I had a lot of codependency because, like, she was everything, any emotion I had.
I've never even thought about that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, we're best friends, but, like, growing up, any emotion I had, like, she had, or, like, anytime I was mad at my parents, like, we would talk about it. And then I realized, like, yeah, being alone was very difficult for a while. And I actually wanted to challenge myself and leave to go to a different college because I knew, like, I need to, like, work on this. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was very challenging, but I think it worked well, like, being in a whole new environment and stuff. Definitely made mistakes along the way. I mean, as we humans do. But like, I recognize that, like, with, I don't know, understanding and taking that individual time is really important. And there was something else I wanted to say, but
there was something I wanted to say like 3 minutes ago, and it totally left my brain. But I'd never thought about the twin thing with you and Olivia, because I've met you guys now that you are such like separate, fully formed people. I didn't even think about that. Like, I was looking at your pictures on the wall, and I was like, for the longest time, I was looking at Liv thinking it was you.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's Liv. That's the bottom one's Miss Becca. But kind of talking about like being like having like such a close emotional like reliance on your sister kind of made me think about like my own. What?
I remember what I was gonna say.
Okay, do you want to go ahead and say it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I went to therapy, right?
Shocker.
When I turned like 16 or something. I went to therapy, and I talked about the conflicts I'd have with Liv. We would get in like huge arguments, like yelling at each other and saying stuff to each other that just was hurtful. And I was like, every time I like want to talk about something, she wants to go. She doesn't want to talk. She's not willing to sit down and do this. And I just was so upset. Like, why can't she see me the way that I need her to? Like, we were in those. Hello.
Are you finished?
We have how long? Maybe like 10 more minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're almost done.
Because Dad said he'll kill a little bit more time.
We have like 10 more minutes.
Okay, alright.
Okay.
Not me going off about it.
Continue.
So yeah, I went to therapy, and I struggled with like having fights with Liv, and it felt like the end of the world. Like, the biggest thing that I've realized this whole year is it's not the end of the world, like you said.
It's not that
the end of
serious.
the world. And if you treat things that way, like, it's going to feel even worse. And like, if instead of just being like, this will pass, like, this is a normal emotion to have, and accepting, like, and allowing things to go and flow. I was not a go and flow girly. I was like, we need to talk about it right now. And then I would go to her like crying, like to my therapist, like, she just left the conversation, and she said that I'll talk about it later. And my therapist was like, you and your sister are close, right? And I was like, yeah. And she was like,
Yeah.
well, you guys are going to like make up and everything's going to be better, right? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, so why is it the end of the world? And I was just like, sometimes it takes someone else saying that for you to be like, I guess it's not. Like, I don't need to be crying myself to sleep. Like, I can just be upset in the moment and be like, we'll talk about it later. It's okay.
Right.
I would take it so personally.
I think what's so interesting is like because what I was gonna say is hearing about like your experience with your sister. It made me think about like my relationship with my siblings. We grew up incredibly close, like so super close, hung out all the time. And I noticed as adults we like became so separate, and it was around like high school age. And I don't think my family is not close. I think we are close, but I've noticed that between us siblings, we're incredibly, how we have been prone to being kind of hyper individualistic with each other. And that was a realization I had after I got out of my relationship, because I was the only one in my family who didn't have a partner. I was by myself, and I was like, well, shit, this is a time when you're supposed to be able to lean on your family for things. And it's kind of like, but if you don't know them very well, what are you leaning on? And so rebuilding a relationship with my parents was incredibly beneficial for me.
Wow.
Like, so beneficial, because when you have relationships take you away from home base, it's kind of like reestablishing that again is so important.
Yeah.
But I started realizing that in order to get to know my siblings better, it's kind of like, okay, well, we got to listen to each other. We have to listen. We have to like actively make an effort to be interested in each other's lives. And if you don't want to be interested, then I guess I'm not going to reciprocate that, because why would I put effort into something that's not being reciprocated back? And so the siblings that I have who have made an interest to like reciprocate that energy, I've been like, oh, well, I think I've been a little bit neglectful, so let me fix that. And so that has kind of changed my outlook on my relationships with even my family. You know, they say like chosen family, all that stuff, but sometimes you can have issues with your family, and if your family loves you and is open to understanding that you're a whole person and they want to support you, it's actually easier to rebuild those relationships than you think. Obviously, there's going to be hard moments where you have like fights and arguments, because the longer that you leave conflict to fester, the longer it's unattended, the more that you're going to have your own opinions about things. And so it's a matter of coming to the same page again.
Yeah.
And it's actually a lot easier than you think. If you let go of your pride, you let go of your ego, you let go of the fact that you always have to be right, it's really easy to find a common ground.
And family members can hold things against one another
For years.
when it's
for
like,
so long.
who is Jared today? Let's talk about that,
Right. I was even thinking about that, like, when my brother came and visited in town. I was like, we're such different people. Like, we've had such... Because he's away at college to play ball, but I didn't realize, I was like, I feel like he used to be my best friend. I used to hang out with him all the time. Then we became teenagers and our own separate people. And it's kind of like, I kind of am more interested to understand, like, his philosophy on things now. Because it's, like, important to kind of catch up and understand who's the brother that I'm talking to now. Because the idea I have of him is from 4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, no, even though I've seen you intermittently, it's kind of like we both need to understand and acknowledge that we've been through very different experiences, and we're talking to different people every time we see each other again.
Yeah.
Like updated versions of ourselves.
Yeah. Like some of it is still there, your inner child's still there, and some of it is new and improved. And like we all should be growing and changing and seeing each other as our new versions and not holding things against one another. And
Right.
letting that go is actually going to like remedy your relationships. And like you said, it can change, it can work, and sometimes it's the hardest with people like family members or people who have been in your life the longest, but it can change for sure.
Yeah. And it's hard because they're quite literally your blood too. You know what I mean? It's like it's sometimes what you see in them that you don't like is what you're seeing in yourself too. So it's kind of like, birds of the same feather, sometimes we gotta flock together even though we don't like each other all the time, but we love each other, and that's what's important.
And healthy breaks are good too.
Yeah.
Like taking breaks and you don't have to see each other every day, or, like I said, mentally prepare before holidays. Like it's okay to be like, it's a struggle, but we're going to push through and we're going to try to be different than we were the last time. And
Right.
Stuff like that.
And it's understand like not everybody not everybody has those fortunate circumstances. Some people don't have good family lives.
Yeah.
And so that's why I do still believe in like you can choose your own family.
Yeah.
And I think that for people who have been able to find chosen family is beautiful, because it's like not having that foundation of a strong family unit, but then being able to build that for yourself is extremely commendable. But for those who think that like, you can find your chosen family, I feel like sometimes it also gets discounted that your family can also grow and change and reflect as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's harder with certain family members than others, but if you can get through to them, then it's easier to reconvene and have a better relationship than you did in past years.
Yeah.
It's funny that we're talking about this because it's the holiday season, and in the spirit of the holidays,
it's important.
it's
like people be thinking about this right now and feeling alone in it.
And bringing people together and just and have people around you who truly support you and aren't just using you as a source.
You have people around that you want to be more like, but that you feel like in an achievable way, not in a toxic way.
And people who want to support your successes, because there are some people who on the outside support your successes, but really they'll try and do small passive-aggressive things that will kind of keep you still at their level. So it's important to have friends that want to grow with you as well, because they become a part of your family in a sense.
And you can have a goal to want to be close with people and to want to be close with your family, but if they're not willing to, then my goal would be to allow what others will allow you to, I mean, you can only allow and do what you can do, and don't like overextend yourself like to the point where you're going to be hurting yourself because these other people, You know, in a way, if they wanted to, they would. You know, you would see some sort of progress. Not that they're going to be perfect, but you will see progress in a certain way.
But that is a huge statement too. If they wanted to, they would. And like, and oftentimes, like, yeah, like you said, no one's going to be perfect, and you can't apply that sentence to everything because you have to have some leeway because humans aren't perfect.
Yeah.
But that is just a true sentiment that I've tried to justify myself. But really, at the end of the day, if they wanted to, they would. You know, it may take a little bit of coaxing, but if you can get somebody to come around, you know, that's a wonderful privilege to have that I think should be taken.
Very grateful. We're very privileged to have.
Yes, to have people who are even considering coming around for the embetterment of you. Is there anything else you want to talk about on this topic, or?
I feel like we wrapped it up well.
Yeah. So, in the spirit of Christmas
and wrapping things up,
wrapping
Literally.
things up. I know that's right. We're gonna do a 3 bullet item Christmas list. We're gonna start with Miss Becca, and I'm so curious on what your Christmas list is going to be. Now, are we going for more like materialistic stuff, or are we going for philosophical stuff, or like what are we doing? Or do we want to do both?
Because I think that we should do our New Year's resolution next week.
Yes.
And so we can do more of the philosophical, like, I'm usually someone who doesn't do resolutions because I don't want to put all that pressure on me, but it is fun to look at your goals and to see where you'd like to be. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm not going to be like, to lose weight. You got to be more specific on what you want.
Right.
You know, to go to the gym 3 times a week. Now that's realistic, you know? So, stuff
Win
like
the
that.
lottery. That's not
So
realistic.
right now, I feel like materials, right?
Yeah.
We'll be material
keep it
girls,
fun.
and then next week we'll be philosophical girls.
Yes. Okay. Oh my God. What do I do to kill the time while she's taking forever? No. I'm trying to think about mine. Okay, I have one that I know. Let's see. Because this is a Christmas list, which is in 2 days, so it's more immediate. So what can I get in the next 2 days? Oh, I've got some more. I've got one more. You know, sometimes this feels like I'm so close to the mic that I'm doing ASMR. I just think, like, I could try, like...
Here you go.
Okay. Okay. Keep the people entertained.
Happy holidays. A rocking around the Christmas tree at the Christmas party hop.
Mistletoe hung where you can see in the good old-fashioned way.
We just mixed up all the lyrics. But yes, we used my mother's pajamas because, we couldn't get any clothes from Target because it's the literal day before Christmas Eve. Mm-hmm. But the effort is there, and what else? I can't imagine doing a solo podcast. That would be very weird.
Have you heard of Emma Chamberlain's podcast where she just talks to herself for 45 minutes?
Yes.
I think I would probably die by the end of that. Like,
I like to ask questions and listen. Like,
yeah.
I mean, I like talking, but then I'll get really tired of myself.
Yeah.
And I think I would just ramble.
I do that enough in my car, and I kind of drive myself insane. Okay, I have my list. Do you have your list?
I put one that's like, if I were a kid, like I'm a kid in an adult's body, but it's an adult. It's something that you would ask for as a kid because you know you would never get it. So I have one unrealistic one.
Oh, okay, for sure.
And then I have 2 like ones that will probably happen.
Okay, for sure.
Because I send my Christmas list like my family does. You send the Christmas list and you probably will get your top one if it's not like too expensive. Mm-hmm. Very privileged to say that I'm able to get that. I'm not trying to brag, as they say in all the...
See, mine were always stupid. Mine was like, I want stuffed monkeys. I want a little thing that
Cheeto Puffs or something like what?
Yeah, like the biggest
That's
thing was
for
like
food?
a Lego castle.
Lego.
Yeah.
Ooh, that one's kind of cool.
And I
So,
did get that one.
This
Thanks,
is very
Karen Scott.
adult of me, but I
Okay.
put a vacuum mop. It's like it's a
Ooh.
2-in-1.
Quite practical.
It's practical and it's like who doesn't want a 2-in-1?
Yeah.
Like there's this one specifically. It's like Tynaco. It's like all over TikTok, but you can. It literally does both. Like it picks up all the shit off the floor and it mops at the same time.
That's so convenient. I love
know.
that.
It's so great. It's like $300 though. But,
Oh. Yeah.
but it'll be worth it. Thrifted clothes.
That's a good one. You can find some really good finds.
I like when people find stuff from the thrift store.
Right, there are some shirts that I wear now that I'm like, where the fuck did I get this from? And it's
Yeah.
from a thrift store for like $7.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Like honestly, those are the best. Like old, like okay. There's a dog in the background.
Oh.
And then I said, pay my student loans.
You know what?
Like,
That's a
that would
good.
be
That's a
great.
good long-term Christmas gift. You can probably use that for next year too.
Yes. For the next year, and 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 the next year.
That's a good list. I like that. Mine's a little bit more unserious.
Okay.
So for my Christmas list, off the top of my head, I said new skatewear.
Oh.
I wear a lot of the same stuff to the ice rink, but it'd be nice to have like a few. Okay. And rude. But I wear a lot of the same stuff to the ice rink, so it'd be nice to have like stuff that doesn't smell after 3 days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not have to like constantly be rewashing stuff.
It's the end, so I'm just.
Yeah,
gonna
it's
let
the
it.
end. We're good. Number 2 is funny enough, a new pajama set. Because I haven't had like pajama pants, like good pajama pants, in a while.
So you were kind of sad because you actually wanted pajamas.
When I thought I was like, when I was going to Target, I was like, I'm gonna wear these for a while, and they didn't have it, and I was like, God damn it. And my third one is so unserious, just more pimento cheese spread.
I
That's my
said
third
cheese
one.
puffs or whatever. and He said pimento cheese. That's
Because
hilarious.
if y'all if there's one thing about me, it's that like when I find a food fixation, I will eat that same thing forever. I was saying, for those of y'all who don't know me, if there's one thing about me, it's that I love to munch, and when I find a new food I'm obsessed with, I can't stop eating it until I literally want to vomit from eating it so much. So so right now it's pimento cheese spread and crackers, and then
I
I'll
feel like
probably
you really like Cane's too.
Mm-hmm.
Why not a Cane's gift card in there?
I know. I was gonna put like one more visit to In-N-Out before Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'll probably like find something else that I like really need to eat in 2 weeks. So it won't
I
be.
love it.
It'll be like.
Will your parents actually get you that? Did
Yeah.
you ask for that?
Like bye pimento cheese. Hello something else like pomegranate or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are our Christmas lists. And happy holidays, Merry
Yeah.
Christmas, and we'll see y'all for the new year.
So,
With that being said,
Stop
stop
lying
lying
to
to
yourself.
yourself. All right, that was good.
Stop lying to yourself.